And case study is one of the tools which can be used. So even now, a lot of our professions, because we engage professions to teach, they are involved in their own experiences, stories, which they keep involved people, but obviously, they require that formal experiential touch, which is something which we are trying to provide. So case study has always been one of the area where I've been working from the beginning since I've taken over in the last 3 years, and we have worked through. This is the first time that we have developed that Indigenous case studies. So because when we were using a lot of international case studies, which are not customized to the local needs, but obviously customizing it to a local need makes a lot of sense for us, and we can actually customize it based on the target audience. So that's something which was very essential. And we are very thankful to all the 3 partner institutions who actually supported us in starting almost a year back. Mainly Bank of Heber, which were one of the case studies related to the refinance scheme related to female entrepreneurs. It was about then HBL, which was about rural bank finance, and Pennsylvania, which was about sugarcane value chain financing. So the other thing I just need to emphasize that case study has always been, Nabaf has been working. My consider Mr. Amir Aziz Saab is here. There was a study prepared on RT with regard to rural finance, which actually incorporated how RTs can be used by the formal banking sector for the purpose of improved rural financing. So one of the project is National Financial Literacy Program, in which we impart financial literacy to youth, which is part of the overall National Financial Inclusion Plan for State Bank of Pakistan. So we have got a lot of positive, negatives forthcoming, and we are also working with a lot of academia and universities to prepare a case study on that. I think that's something, a model which can not only be used by local people, but by international economies as well, where such programs are being, especially the developing countries where such programs are being undertaken. So I just wanted to emphasize a couple of things. A case study is basically, we are talking about documenting things. So the process is something we start with documenting the real scenario, which we have done it in all these cases, and then we can work into an academic form so that it can be done. One of our advantage, I think, is because we are part of State Bank of Pakistan, the banks does not shy away from us in providing us information, and that's very critical. Because key information is very, very critical for us. So obviously, they have got faith that we will keep all these things confidential, depending upon what they allow us to disclose. So I think that's something which is very critical. Obviously, this is just a start. We would like to partner with the academic institutions, with the banks, so that we can develop case studies. While we are customizing various courses for specialized areas of banking, like treasury, compliance, like rural finance, trade policies. Obviously, we require more case studies so that it can become part of the learning exercise when we are conducting those cases. So these cases will obviously become part of our the experiential learning which we are providing. But more towards, one of the positive things is we can customize it to our needs. We can customize it for our induction programs. We can customize to our middle management programs. But these things can bear more discussions on what can be done and what cannot be done. So these are a couple of success, a little bit of failure models, but obviously generally we picked up figures from the success, but I'm sure that these case studies are very important for failure models as well, because a lot needs to be done for failure. So as we go along, we need to learn from mistakes, and these are very important for us so that we can localize and understand our issues and our challenges. And I'm sure that when you will look into these case studies, this is more customized to this level. So finally, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, for taking out time from the busy schedule. And I'm sure attending this event, you will have more learning ideas, where and how we can work together and we can develop. So I'm encouraging all the academia as well as bankers to work with us, and then we can take this move forward. Thank you very much.
As shared by Mr. Chanara, that most of the case studies that are taught in our training programs are international examples that have relatively low or no connect with the real life issues that are being faced here. There was a need to develop these case studies for local bankers so that they could apply their knowledge and skills in context of scenarios similar to their native working place. NIPAF took on this initiative and collaborated with the three banks, as mentioned by Mr. Chanara. I would like to introduce our team who collaborated with the banks and took on this task, mainly comprised of Mr. Javed Iqbal and Mr. Zahid Shabir. Mr. Javed Iqbal is associated with State Bank since 2007. He has diversified experience of working in financial stability department, research department, monetary policy department, in addition to working with NIPAF. He has contributed to publications like Financial Stability Review, SPP Annual and Quarterly Reports, Monetary Policy Statement, and a number of other research papers and policy notes. Besides being member of the Case Studies Development Project, he is also an active member of Instructional Design team at NIPAF. Our other leading team member is Mr. Zahid Shabir. He has about 17 years of experience working with this central bank. His past experience has been in the area of development finance. He was the team lead from SPP to develop a monitoring and evaluation system under National Financial Inclusion Strategy in collaboration with the World Bank. One of his important works include devising the mechanism for collection of gender disaggregated accounts data at SPP. He has worked with many donor institutions in the area of development finance. He is also the key member of e-learning implementation at NIPAF. I would like to invite Mr. Zahid Shabir to share insights and findings on a NIPAF case study development project with you on behalf of the team.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the event. For those who have joined us in person and for those who have joined us virtually as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of case studies dates back to earlier 19th century. To be precise, in 1829, one of the French economist and engineer, Frederick Guy, developed this method. And later on, all renowned institutions within the world adopted this method for teaching purpose. Our objective of developing indigenous case studies if you can have a slide. Sorry for
next slide.
Okay, thank you. Our objective of developing indigenous case studies was basically tied to ACR principle, in which we wanted our learners to empathize with the real world cases, and secondly, to connect with these scenarios similar to their work environment. And finally, we just wanted to invoke a kind of thought provocation on the learners to reflect on situations which are ambiguous and not common. On the hindsight, we were also looking to add some sort of strategic feedback for policymakers as well as practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, our journey started back in January 2021, and we took off in a PEF manner, that is preparation, action, and finalization. For the very first half of 2021, we were under the preparation mode. We underwent many kind of preparation activities in that time, during that time. And particularly during the last half of 2021, we were in action mode, performing different activities related to actual case study project. During the last 6 months of the project, we underwent activities which were kind of overlapping between action-related activities and the finalization-related activities. And today, we are here to share the insights on the developments that we have achieved in these case studies. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look at the dynamics of Pakistan's banking industry, we see the institutions are different structure and different size. We have banks which are large-sized banks, we have banks, mid-sized banks, we have microfinance banks, even other institutions as well. If we look at the products and services offered by these banks, or the people, the resources they do have, or this level of skills at these institutions, and it varies to a great deal. And finally, we can see that no two institutions can have a similar organizational culture. So, we also understand that every now and then different kind of projects are going on within the financial industry. Every now and then, different kind of incidents are being reported and some get unreported. There are misses, there are near misses. There arises a question actually, is there any way to document these learnings arising out of these incidents? Probably the answer to this question right now is no. So this is where the role of these case studies comes into play. They provide an excellent avenue for documenting the learnings. Ladies and gentlemen, our approach towards doing these case studies is just like the other case studies. We use different kind of tools. We use surveys, we use key informant interviews, and we use focus group discussions and so on and so forth, the different kind of information tools for all the case studies that we were able to develop. Our approach followed a prescribed discipline that was advised for the development of the case studies. These included a kind of identification of particular setting for a case, what were the actors, what they were supposed to do, different kind of events linked to the case, and finally the case sequencing and organization of those events. All these three cases that we developed were reviewed by experts for quality assurance purpose. And that's how we finally reached together. If we look at different kind of these studies that we have undergone, I would just briefly highlight that one of the case studies of women entrepreneurs highlights focuses on policy implementation issue. And the key learning areas that we aim to achieve under this case study is women's access to finance, leadership roles, or management perspective. Similarly, our second case study, which focuses on LMS integration, is a process-oriented case study. It basically takes into account the automation effect or transformation effect that a particular institution was going to achieve. Few of the key learning areas in this particular case study are agri and rural banking, specialized project management, and similarly glimpses of agile transformation as well. Our third case study is basically based on sugarcane variation and financing product. It's a product-oriented study which covers the product journey that continued for good time, and we are looking to assess the impact of that particular product on the life of the farmers or the farmers who were actually involved. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I will just give you a brief overview of each of these case studies. Our first case study, as I mentioned earlier, is about the female farmer financing. In this case study, we ventured with Bank of Canada. We are very thankful for their cooperation all the way. We used surveys in 6 different districts of the country, 2 in GP, 3 in KP, and 1 in AJK. We followed a sort of a fabulous fieldwork and silk road journey that I like to show you guys.
Kind of a conundrum or the challenge when I look at this data is the stickiness of this data.
And has very well covered the access to finance, especially the account opening part of it. So even when that is done, the next question is, will they actually get finance for their businesses or whatever intervention they want to start? And the likelihood is very, very low.
Women's financial inclusion and access to finance for women, it becomes simultaneously everybody's responsibility and then also nobody's responsibility because it becomes forgotten about in these broader financial sectors.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम समिया अबुल है, आई बिलोंग टू डी खान। मैं एक मिडिल क्लास फैमिली से बिलोंग करती हूँ। पहले मैं स्कूल टीचर रह चुकी हूँ, उसके बाद आफ्टर मैरिज ड्यू टू सम सिचुएशंस मैं उसको कैरी आउट नहीं कर सकी और घर में बैठना पड़ा। फिर मेरे बच्चे हो गए, दे आर वेरी स्मॉल, मुझे उनको संभालना भी था। माई हस्बैंड इज़ हैविंग अ गुड जॉब, लेकिन एक फैमिली को, पूरी फैमिली को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो उसके लिए उनके लिए आसान नहीं है कि मेरी एक्स्ट्रा कोई फाइनेंशियल हेल्प कर सकते। तो मैंने ये सोचा कि घर बैठ के कुछ करना चाहिए। पूरा साल मैं ये सोचती रही, फिर हमें किसी रेफरेंस से हस्बैंड के थ्रू पता चला आप लोगों की स्कीम का, और उसको हमने अवेल भी किया, उसका मुझे फ़ायदा भी हुआ। पर मंथ 7,000 to 8,000 समहाउ इस तरह से मैं अर्न कर लेती थी और अपने बच्चों को भी उसमें से अच्छा खासा गुजारा मेरा हो जाता है। आई रियली वांट एंड आई रियली अप्रिशिएट कि आप लोग वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट के लिए इस तरह कुछ करें, क्योंकि ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हर लड़की घर से बाहर आके जॉब कर सके। मैं जॉब कर सकती हूँ, मुझे सपोर्ट भी है, लेकिन मेरे बच्चे इतने छोटे हैं कि मैं किसी को भी उनको हवाले नहीं कर सकती। तो उसके लिए मैं, जब मेरे पास पोटेंशियल भी है एंड आई कैन डू ऑल्सो, तो मैं घर में बैठ के इस तरह से कुछ करूँ कि इन्वेस्टमेंट भी हो, मैं अर्न भी करूँ, मुझे बाहर भी ना जाना पड़े। तो ये मुझे अच्छा ऑप्शन लगा था। आई अवेयर्ड दैट और मैंने कोशिश की और उसमें मुझे फ़ायदा भी हुआ। 70 to 80% मैं इससे सेटिस्फाई भी हूँ, लेकिन मैं चाहती हूँ कि आप इसमें कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स इस तरह से करें कि इसका मार्कअप कुछ कम हो जाए। हालांकि आप लोगों का मार्कअप बहुत यूजर फ्रेंडली है, बट स्टिल अगर आप इसमें ऐड करेंगे 3 to 4 लाख, तो मैं घर में बैठ के लाइक आई मार्ट की मैं सैलून खोल लूँ कोई अच्छा सा, तो उसके लिए मुझे इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए जो मैं किसी से ले भी नहीं सकती और मैं लेना भी नहीं चाहती, ताकि मैं खुद उसको रीपे कर सकूँ इंडिपेंडेंटली। ना मेरे शोहर को कोई ऑब्जेक्शन हो, ना मेरे इन-लॉज को, और ना मुझे कुछ। तो ये आपकी तरफ से अगर इस तरह से हो जाए तो दैट वुड बी एक्सीलेंट।
थैंक यू।
मेरा नाम रुबीना नायक, मैं ज़िला ड्रेस में की रिहायशी हूँ। मैंने खैबर बैंक पाकिस्तान के ताउन से 6 भैंसें ली थी 2 साल पहले। उसके बाद अपनी मेहनत और अल्लाह ताला की ताउन से और अल्लाह ताला के साथ से मुझे बहुत इसमें फ़ायदा हुआ है। 1 साल में मेरे तकरीबन जानवर दुगने हो गए हैं, उनसे मुझे काफ़ी माली सपोर्ट भी हुई है और मेरे बहुत से फैमिली के जो बेरोज़गार अफराद थे उनको एक रोज़गार भी मिला है। मैंने खुद अपने बच्चों के लिए खालिस दूध भी इस्तेमाल किया है और अपने इलाके के लोगों को भी खालिस चीज़ फराम की है। मुझे इस चीज़ पर भी बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी महसूस हो रही है कि हमारे इस वक्त जो मुल्क के हालात चल रहे हैं उसके तहत मैं लोगों को एक अच्छी चीज़ अवेल कर रही हूँ। मैं इस स्कीम से बहुत ज़्यादा मुतमईन हूँ। मैं चाहती हूँ कि खैबर बैंक और स्टेट बैंक अगर इसी तरह हमारे साथ ताउन रहा और मज़ीद इस किस्म की स्कीमों को इससे इस्तेफादा हम लोग होते रहे तो हमारा मुल्क बहुत तरक्की करेगा। इसके अलावा मेरी स्टेट बैंक से स्पेशली रिक्वेस्ट है कि अगर इन जानवरों के साथ साथ स्कीम में 1-2 और चीज़ों को, एक जैसे फ़र्ज़ करो ज़रूरियात हैं इस कारोबार के, उनको शामिल कर लें तो शायद ये प्रोग्राम ज़्यादा आगे तक चलेगा और तरक्की करता रहेगा। और इस चीज़ पे मैं एक बार फिर तवज्जो दिलाती हूँ बैंक ऑफ स्टेट बैंक की कि अगर मज़ीद इस किस्म की स्कीमें चलती रहें तो हमारे मुल्क में बेरोज़गारी ख़त्म हो जाएगी और खुशहाली आम हो जाएगी। थैंक यू।
Ladies and gentlemen, we have many more stories, but in the interest of time, just move on towards the final. Apart from the demographic findings of the project, which are quite heuristic, I would just like to highlight a couple of important findings of this project. If you can see, almost 47% of the borrowers showed their satisfaction with the overall financing. But it was equally amazing to see that the satisfaction ratio with the markup facility was about 90%. When we looked into analysis that what is the actual reason actually in these far farming areas within the country, different kind of microfinance bank or corporate society banks used to operate, and the markup charge as compared to the financing facility offered by the banks under the refinancing scheme was quite low as compared to the markup they were charging. So with these findings, even if you look at the borrower satisfaction, By excluding the portfolio of GB, our success ratio surged terribly, and under these almost better 95% of the findings, that highlighted that probably there was inherently something wrong with the lending in GB particularly. Let's look, have a look at these findings. When we look into different kind of the financing models experimented by the bank within 3 different modes, we saw that it was a promoter dominant model where the promoter assumed all the liabilities and also acted as a guarantor and had an arrangement with the borrowers as well. It is just different with promoter-led model, in which promoter doesn't act as a guarantor. It just facilitate the identification of the borrowers and recommendation to the bank for accessing finance. And lastly, there is a direct financing model in which the borrowers were there at their own for getting the loans and for repayment. If we look at the outcomes of these 3 different models, we see that probably there was not much success in GB. In KPK, Shower was not a success. And under the direct financing, we saw a lot of success. And then that constituted the areas of DA Khan, Karak, and etc. Having said that, we use different indicators like borrower satisfaction, non-performing loans, as increase in assets or increase in income, and so on and so forth. Having said that, whether the outcome of these models suggested that whether the promoter model is the recommended one or the direct financing is the recommended one, we could safely assume or say that it is just about the implementation contours. With the same promoter model, if the selection of promoter should have been on the basis of solid grounds, probably the results would have been different. So it just depends upon the implementation contours under every model which we are going to adopt. That sums up the findings for this section. I will just move on towards the next set. Our next case study is our layered report digitalization. Here we actually were interested to see that NRA's integration endeavor of banks with the financial industry. Right now, almost 70% of the banking industry, commercial banks and microfinance banks have been onboarded with the NRAs. Here, one of the important aspects that triggered our sense to undergo this study was SBI was undergoing a very good channel utilization as compared to the few of the other players. But the essence of the study was whether this channel utilization had a transformation effect or not. With the cooperation of HBL, we ventured into 3 different districts of Leia, Janwala, and Lokara, and met borrowers and all the key stakeholders over there. Let's have a look at this journey.
The customer approaches bank to apply for a loan. The agri-finance officer briefs customer about loan documentation, takes his credentials, verifies CNIC and KYC requirements, and undertakes biometric verification along with customer snapshot in the system. As a primary step for every loan, AFO issues customer with fee challan for further extraction. The customer either approaches the bank's payment counter or pays fee through alternate delivery channels. After payment of fee, AFO extracts FARD from LRMIS and handovers to the customer. Under normal circumstances, the process of FARD extraction gets completed within half hour at maximum.
मेरा नाम फतेह मोहम्मद है और मैं जिला लिया पंजाब का रहने वाला हूँ। मुझे ये जानकर बहुत खुशी है कि बैंक की अराजी रिकॉर्ड से मुतल्लिका खिदमात ने हमारी जिंदगियों में कितनी आसानी पैदा कर दी है। मैं इन खिदमात से बहुत खुश हूँ क्योंकि मैंने इन खिदमात को कर्ज के हसूल के लिए अराजी रिकॉर्ड सेंटर की निस्बत ज्यादा तेज, मौसर और शफाफ पाया है। जहां मुझे बाज़ औक़ात कर्ज के लिए जमीन के कागजात हासिल करने में घंटों और दिनों लगते थे, इन खिदमात के बाइस वक्त और लागत में वाज़े कमी आई है। मेरी ख्वाहिश है कि हर किसान बैंक की अराजी रिकॉर्ड से मुतल्लिका खिदमात से फायदा उठाए क्योंकि ये हमारे किसान तबके के लिए बहुत सूदमंद है।
When we come across meeting different stakeholders and within the HBL and outside HBL, one thing that outshine that HBL had an inherently very strong organizational structure. They transformed it into cross-functional teams, and the key to success was the exemplary coordination among those teams. Whether it be the people at the HBL head office, whether it be the people at their field offices, or their specialized IT staff or their specialized project management team. I think they delivered a success. We have a data of just over 2 years since the post-operationalization of NRMS, and we were able to find out that during this time, their portfolio in these 3 districts appreciated just about 60%. And likewise, their outreach in the number of the powers also increased up to 15%. When we compare this performance with one of the other players having a larger channel utilization, viewers were not able to see the transformation effect actually. Rather, we see a kind of decline in the portfolio as well as in the outreach. With this apparent success, which is seemingly going to move on further as the use of the system will increase, we also looked into the aspect of turnaround time. Here we were able to find out that just under 60% of the loans were dispersed during that time span of 3 weeks, and a good number of loans were dispersed beyond that time. Here, the loan processing time means the time it takes the loan application to get entered into the system. Every time the funds are dispersed into the borrower's account. As per our discussions with the stakeholders and the other key informers, two significant aspects that come up further. That the time lag was probably associated with sometimes with the objections raised by the CAD, and sometimes the time lag was on the part of the customer where he was required to submit different documents. Having said that, probably this is something we realize that can improve further. That sums up the findings on this case study. I will now move on towards the next case study. Ladies and gentlemen, we saw a kind of consistently performing pattern in context of sugarcane value chain financing within the Facet Bank. We teamed up with Facet Bank and we had a very hot and steamy journey to district Rainbow Khan and there in Sarkabad as well. During this journey, we were able to meet different stakeholders who were involved in this financing endeavor throughout the period of time. Let's have a quick look at our journey.
जब ये सर ये फाइनेंस वगैरह का काम नहीं था मिल से तो मेरे पास जो मेरी शादी हुई है 99 में सर, तो उस वक्त मेरे पास बाईसाइकिल थी, तो मैं फैमिली के लिए भी बाईसाइकिल इस्तेमाल करता था। आज अल्लाह का शुक्र है सर, मेरे बच्चे अच्छे स्कूलों में पढ़ रहे हैं, मेरे पास गाड़ी है, ड्राइवर है, घर है, और शादी का बाद में चलो उसको अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। तो इसी क्लास की वजह से और इसी मिल और
तो आज से पहले 10-15-20 साल पहले तो जो बुजुर्गों से मिला रकबा वो भी था, लेकिन उसके बाद शुगर केन आने से अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह काफ़ी तब्दीली आई है। तो अब माशाल्लाह पहले हमारे पास मोटरसाइकिल छोटी गाड़ी होती थी, अब बड़ी गाड़ी भी है।
The numbers speak for themselves. If you see during the first 5 years, during 2005 and up to 2010, they widened their base and probably they never looked back. We can see just over 19,000 borrowers entertained under a single product and portfolio disbursement under a single product up to surging up to 8 billion, nearing to 8 billion was actually something unprecedented. When we try to look into what were the factors that contributed towards this success, basically it used to be a tripartite bond between the bank, the borrower and the farmer. But what was different? Because normally every institution uses such an angle under the BCF or something. We tend to know that I think one of the critical role was for that of sugar mill as well. When we met borrowers, they told us stories. They used to have issues of set payments. One of the farmers told us that probably sometimes they used to get refined sugar in return of the actual sugar cane submitted to sugar mill. So that was one of the issues. And if we look at another important aspect that we find out over here was that the sugar mill was extending finance to the borrowers at their own, even when they were not able to secure it from the bank. So this was something quite different, and this is something probably that caused a sustainable sustainability of this particular intervention, and that was the prime reason of this success. With these findings, I will just sum up the findings of this case study and we'll move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, why capacity building, case-based capacity building? The anthropologists all over the world profess that the problem-oriented learning are used to leave a lasting impression in terms of return on investment as well as the retention. If these learnings are funneled into a right feedback mechanism, they can be used to help define your business strategy. We all know that define or defined business strategy is always fruitful in terms of expansion in business and outreach. So there is a case for case studies. I'll just move on to the next. So while concluding all these 3 case studies, we have a feedback for industry as well as the policymakers. I will go just for industry-related feedback first. We all know that promoter model is critical towards the success of any value chain financing per se. As we assess the creditworthiness of the borrowers, so important is the assessing the creditworthiness or soundness of financial stability of the promoter as well. We have seen in 2 cases in which in one of the cases there was a delay, and the reason was promoter was not that sound or responsible. In other case, we saw a phenomenal success, and the reason apparently seemed to be the promoter. So creditworthiness or financial stability of the promoter is quite significant. Second aspect is the policy communication. We were there in one of the sessions with the participants, and we just handed over them a policy that which was relevant to their areas of operation. When we asked them whether you have used this policy before or whether you have seen this policy, what are the caveats of this policy, none of them was able to respond that they were able to see it. So top-down communication of the policies is critical for the successful implementation of these policies, any policies. And our third feedback is on agile transformation. We saw during the focus group discussions with all the players in the technology related discussion that actually related. We were in a focus group discussion where our players successfully integrated and with the LMS system. But when we asked what were the reasons, they were not having the either the channel utilization or they were not so active in this scheme. They told us probably the agri sector is not their leading priority. In contrast, we saw that the HPL somehow lived the concept of agility in what they were doing. That means that they were using cross-functional teams, they were preferring people over the processes, and similarly customer orientation over the contract management was one of the aspects. And overall, the culture of agility was somehow visible in HPL, which was unfortunately not as visible in other institutions that we just compared. From the policy perspective, we have three feedbacks and they all relate to women's entrepreneurship refinancing scheme policy. One of the findings suggested that almost nearly 60% female borrowers responded that they were having control over their spending. With this perspective, the 40% were saying that probably they don't have or they have a mixed kind of sense about their spending. So we were just able to find out that though within the regime of the whole financing within Pakistan, we see the this particular intervention or the financing accepted women is just one pinch of salt as compared to the whole regime. But the 40% means significant. We need to look into what are the ways whether women are front-loaded to access the subsidized financing or how we can improve it. While undergoing focus group discussions with the banks, we came across different issues. I won't go into much detail, but top 2 3 issues were there was an issue of financial literacy, there was an issue of business acumen, there was an issue of use cases, and one another important issue was the ownership of assets in their name. So probably these are the areas where we can take on this feedback. While demand side insights highlighted there was very persistent gap between the access and usage of financial services, which has been coming over the period of time. Though our recent insights, supply-side insights somehow contaminate and probably recent demand-side data also tells us that it probably has been reduced as compared to the past. But still it is wider as if we compare it with our peers within the South Asia. Another important aspect that hinders the access to finance to women actually was about our culture or our social norms, our interaction of females with the male counterparts or male staff, and as well as the ownership of mobile phones, and using mobile phones was one of the factors that contributed towards this issue. With this, we sum up our strategic and policy feedback and we'll just move on what we are going to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded this project, but our journey continues. What we look from you is basically, we look to partner with you. If we talk about the financial industry of the Pakistan, I think there are around more than 50 institutions which work under the regulatory ambit of State Bank of Pakistan, and they have almost more than 16,000 branches or so. If we look at the academia side, I think more than 170 universities are attached by HEC. And even if I talk about just Islamabad, I think we have more than 30 universities or so. And the corporate sector is just around, never it goes so wide. What we have tried to do is that we have just tried to put on a signature on the canvas and the whole canvas is open. Everybody from academia, everybody from financial industry, even the corporate sector can come in and chip in and play their role. Probably together we are going to portray a very pleasant picture out of it. So with this, I would request, please contact us, please join hands with us. We have our case center, their email ID is quite visible over here, and you can contact us in context of developing case studies with you, in context of delivery, or any areas of common interest. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my presentation. With the apologies for technical hiccups, I hope less than fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zahid, for sharing your journey to development of these case studies with us. Ladies and gentlemen, our journey of case studies development would not have been this much a success without the untiring cooperation of our partner institutions, Bank of Khyber, HPL, and Qasim Bank Limited. I would like to invite representatives from our partner institutions to share their experience of working with us. First of all, I would request Mr. Ali Faraz, Managing Director and CEO of Bank of Khyber, to share his views on case study development by Nawaf on implementation of women entrepreneurs financing scheme of Bank of Khyber.
Dr. Murtaza Sayed, Acting Governor, State Bank, Managing Director, NEBAF, Sahib, industry colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'd like to thank and congratulate NEBAF on preparing these case studies. They are excellent, they are very well written, and I really, the writing style was very evocative, and I really enjoyed reading them, and I think they provided a lot of interesting insights and an excellent report card to us as an institution to evaluate our own project. So thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, ours is a country with a high incidence of financial exclusion. And there is furthermore a gender disparity, and the problem is disproportionately affecting women. Every time I see statistics involving other countries and financial exclusion, and particularly when we see countries in our own neighborhood, and I see the gap between us and them, it is a sobering thought, and it reminds us of how much further we have to improve to catch up. It is my personal observation that apart from a few countries in the world that have extraordinary commodity-based wealth, there is not a single country that has achieved a high standard of living without the economic engagement and financial empowerment of women. So I think this is absolutely a national priority. And in this regard, I wish to also compliment State Bank of Pakistan for the various measures and initiatives that they have taken to support financial access and empowerment of women and in general of the population. And I'm also very pleased to see that matrimonial equality policy now places mandatory targets on financial institutions to make significant progress in this regard. Now, coming to this particular case study, 2/3 of the female population in Pakistan reside in rural areas. Clearly that tells you that a lot of the men are able to travel to cities to seek employment, but this choice is often not available to women. So providing a economic opportunity to women in rural areas at their doorstep is really necessary. In this respect, Bank of Khyber decided to pursue a dairy farming concept. Women in rural areas are already accustomed to taking care of livestock and animals as part of their daily lifestyle. So this provided us an excellent opportunity to enable a income generation opportunity to women in their homes, and also that did not require any substantial learning or traveling outside of their immediate neighborhood. So we decided to finance cows and buffaloes, women to generate income by the sale of milk. Now the project, I think MD Nibaf earlier said that we are primarily, or you are primarily highlighting success stories. And I would like to say, I think it's important to always be in perspective. I think our case study illustrates failures as well as successes. And I think both are very important learning tools for us. So So the largest, it's not a very large project as well. In total, we provided 130 million rupees total financing for 300 women across 7 districts, GB, Muzaffarabad, and a few areas of AP. Now, the good news is that when we provided the financing to the women of animals that they knew how to take care of, they were very successful in generating income and running that small business, paying off the loans. And I'm delighted to say that the non-performance ratio is less than 1% for that segment. So when given an opportunity, the women are hardworking and they are reliable borrowers. And I think that we should absolutely build upon this experience. Now, what did not work so well? The largest project that we did in this regard, and the first one was in Gilgit, Pakistan. That's the one that you heard a bit more about in the illustration of the case study. And that involved not only a promoter which was acting as an intermediary, but there was also a significant element that we included imported cows from Australia. And I think one of the key lessons to be learned from this exercise is that we do not take risk with imported animals whose care perhaps requires special handling and knowledge and facilities with poor women at the margin of society. That's not the place to take this kind of risk, and I think that's the first issue. The second is that whenever you engage a promoter or an intermediary, it is very critical that they are competent, that they are reliable, and they are properly disseminating the information to the women so that they are not surprised. Now, what can we draw as positives from even this failure? It's not a case that the women were unwilling to pay or unreliable borrowers. The primary issue was that the project was not very well structured, with the promoter perhaps not being able to deliver some of their responsibilities. The women were not as clear about their obligations, and they perhaps were under the impression that just simply providing their milk to the promoter, who was then going to take care of everything else, including the servicing of the loans, was going to be it. So there was, this was a structural issue and not really a creditworthiness issue. So I think, and again, it's not about the fact that there was a promoter in the case that failed and no promoters in the cases that were successful. I think we just need to do more due diligence on the promoter when we involve one. But in summary, I would just like to say that there are several cases of women who were able to expand their business and convert one dairy animal into 2 or 3, and so they are actually growing as entrepreneurs, and we have given them a sustainable source of income. And I think this is generally I would also add that in a province that also suffers disproportionately from financial exclusion, and where perhaps due to cultural norms, women have also limited access to finance. Bank of Hyder, representing that province, is very, very keen to play a role in this addressing this issue, and we are very happy to continue to partner with State Bank to execute and implement the various programs and initiatives. And there are a few others that we're also trying to bring to women, including the SAF program and so on. So we are, once again, would like to thank NEPA for an excellent case study in helping us evaluate the project and learn from this. And I think we absolutely can scale it up in a much more successful way going forward. Thank you.
Sir, and thanks for acknowledging that women are more hardworking and reliable borrowers than we. We hope that as a guardian from your experience, more banks will come forward and launch such schemes, specifically to promote women entrepreneurs in rural areas. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Habib Shah, GM Rural Banking, here to share his views on study regarding digitization and the management system of HPL and the challenges that they have faced.
Honorable Governor, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to congratulate Nibab for this wonderful initiative. These case studies will help us to learn, share learning our studies, and encourage them to try new initiatives and create successful models. Banking sector of Pakistan is generally reluctant to pursue every loans, mainly due to risk of fake documentation and high cost of processing of loans. This PRA initiative has significantly reduced the risk of fraudulent documents. At HPL, agri financing is the main priority. We feel proud that HPL, being the market leader in farmer financing, has successfully led this initiative and become the first bank to integrate its systems with PLRA system, and also become the first bank to create a charge online. If you look at the benefits of PLRA, it significantly reduces the turnaround time, minimizes the risk of fake documentation, customer convenience in terms of flexi timings and hassle-free processing, improvement of field efficiency with respect to time, cost, and efforts. The next step is now we are pursuing PLRA to implement the e-passbook. Also, the digitization of Khasra Gardawi, which will help us to further grow in this segment rapidly. At the end, I would like to thank the past team who have worked hardly on these case studies. So, thank you very much, team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request Mr. Altaf Saqib, Head CB, SME and Agriculture Faisal Bank Limited, to share his views on FPL sustainable stride of sugarcane value chain finance.
Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Active Governor, State Bank of Pakistan, MD staff, CEOs and presidents of banks, and my colleagues. We take a pride for the Faisal Bank and also pay our thanks to the BAF for conducting this study. Actually, Faisal Bank was the first bank in 2004-2005 who took the initiative to provide value chain financing as far as sugarcane is concerned in the industry. The product was launched initially at India, Khan, Khanewal, Itihad Sugar Mill, JK, Jahangir Train Group Sugar Mills. The concept was very clear at that point in time in our minds. Although Faisal Bank was a small bank or mid-sized bank at that point in time, but always thinking about bringing the new initiatives in the market, working on the new products. We launched this product. And it was the first bank to launch this product. When it was launched, none of the example was there that any bank had ever financed or joined hands with the industry along with the farmer. So basically three partners in whole of this project. One, the financial institution. Number two, the sole beneficiary, the farmer, and the industry in itself, the sugarcane. This project has actually changed the lives of the areas of the farmers of the areas. When you go through the contents of the case study, you would come across the cases where the people were in a very shabby condition due to the reason that the cotton area, Raingar was used to be a cotton area, everybody knows about it. Khanewal, Raingar Khan was majorly a cotton area. but due to certain issues, this cotton area was going to be down, the per acre yield was going to be on the downside, and the farmers were facing poverty. Sugarcane, it's not only the bank who played a very vital role. It was also the industry who played a very vital role. They brought in the new seeds, they brought in the new technology, they brought in the agronomic practices, and old age agronomic practices were replaced with the new technology as well as the new practices. That created a hell of difference. What? Number one, per acre yield was increased. Number two, access to finance was very much there. And number three, the potential of the area was utilized. Everybody knows that in the India plant, the studies were already there that the sugarcane of the India plant is a very large content of the sucrose. That created the productivity for the sugar mills. And the farmers were very hardworking, and the bank provided this loan, and ultimately there was a larger impact on the lives of people. Number one, productivity of the organization and the sugar mills, and the most important thing, when this finance was available, access to finance was easier to the farmer, then around about, we are just seeing the slides, more than 20,000 farmers were benefited, more than 7 to 8 billion properties were these were dispersed, and became an example to the other banks, and a lot of other banks came into it, and now it's a journey of more than 16 years the FASL Bank has been into, and it's been a very successful journey. We are very much thankful to Ribaf, who partnered us with this study and brought up the positive side of the banking sector, who have played a pivotal role towards bringing changes into the lives of the farmers. Can we do it for the other crops as well? Can we go for ginning? Because our cotton production, our cotton per acre yield, that's going down all the way. Can we do it as the white gold industry and the milk industry has done for the farmers? This collaboration adds value not only to the economic value of the country, GDP of the country, but also towards the social collateral and social value of the country. Once again, thank you very much, Siva, and all of the partners. Thank you very much.
So we hope that other banks also follow your movement. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would request the Chief Guest of today's event, Dr. Murtaza Syed, Honorable Acting Governor of State Bank of Pakistan, to share his insights with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let me begin in the name of the merciful Lord of all mankind and of all creation. MD Nabaf, Riaz Janasa, CEOs of participating banks, Masood Khan Sahab, I can see Malikul Faraz Sahab, Sadiq Shah Sahab from HBL, Lataf Hussain Sahab from Federal Bank. I would also like to especially thank the team at Nabaf that has been involved in these cases. I think they've done an outstanding job. I'd like to, and I'm sure there's many more, but I'd like to in particular pay thanks to Sanjay Sahab, Zahid Shabir Sahab, and a very cheap TED Talk style presentation, really inclusive, which is unfortunately in one share with this one present here. Javed Iqbal और वो दोस्त जो ऑनलाइन भी जिन्होंने किया ग्रेटफुल के लिए टाइम निकाला हमारे सीएम्स साहब के मुफारुक साहब और दीदी के साथ इंशा साहब और लास्ट बट नॉट लीस्ट माय वेरी गुड फ्रेंड अजीज साहब जिनकी कंट्रीब्यूशन स्टेट बैंक में आई डोंट नीड टू गो इनटू ही इज रिमेंबर्ड एवरी डे एट द स्टेट बैंक ही इज रिमेंबर्ड in very fond words and he has a very strong legacy that everybody in the state talks about at the state bank. ये तो सबसे पहले congratulate करना चाहूँगा Nabaf को. I think this is quite an achievement. The case studies is a very different way of training and teaching. And I think it's something that is long overdue. And I'm glad that we come to with the help of some banks, in particular the Case Center of Delhi University has been a very good partner. And inshallah, अब आगे जैसे देखेंगे इस तरह जाहिर साहब ने बताया था कि आगे जाके हम केस करेंगे, including not just sort of financial issues, but also the बाकी mandate है state bank का monetary policy पे, growth पे, उसके ऊपर भी हमें केस स्टडीज करने की जरूरत है. मैं देखें आपने काफी लंबी चीज सुन ली है, मैं बहुत लंबी कोई बात नहीं करना चाहता, लेकिन दो तीन बातें मैं करना चाहता हूँ जनरली. सबसे पहले तो ये कि ये जो केस स्टडीज हैं ये क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट होती है. आजकल मैं किताब पढ़ रहा हूँ, उसका नाम है द इन्फ्लुएंशियल माइंड. उसमें ये बताया गया, इट्स रिटन बाय अ न्यूरोसाइंटिस्ट इन अमेरिका, तो एंड द ऑथर शी सेज कि जो डेटा होता है, फिगर्स होते हैं, नंबर्स होते हैं, हमारे ख्याल में हम पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं कि ये बहुत लोगों को कन्विंस करनी चाहिए. अगर आपको अच्छा डेटा हो तो कन्विंस हो जाएंगे, आपका आर्गुमेंट विन हो जाएगा और आप चल जाएंगे. तो कहते हैं ऐसे नहीं होता. अनफॉर्चुनेटली अब हमारी जिंदगी में क्योंकि बहुत सी इंफॉर्मेशन आ गई, we can choose what we want to believe. There's alternative facts out there to quote the previous president of the United States. लेकिन सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट ये होता है कि आप फैक्ट्स जरूर दें, लेकिन साथ आप कहानियां भी सुनाएं. Stories ultimately are what we do in these. कहानियां जो होती हैं बहुत जरूरी है. लोगों की कहानियां, लोगों की तस्वीरें, लोगों की शक्ल, असली लोगों की experiences. और इन केस स्टडीज में मुझे बहुत अच्छा ये लगा जब मैंने पढ़ा थी on the way over on the plane from Karachi. ये बहुत अच्छी तरह से रखी गई है and they're very compelling, I think, as you had said, Khalid Al-Farsa. So I really want to commend whoever wrote these because they were written very, very nicely and they really engage the reader. So सबसे पहले कहानियां बहुत जरूरी है and we need to make sure that we keep telling stories. More generally also in Pakistan, I think there are shorter stories. Unfortunately, ऐसे डायरेक्शन में चले गए जहाँ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ज़्यादा है, डिबेट कम है, एक दूसरे को सुनते कम है, बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. तो I think कहानियाँ are very important. Because ultimately, all of economics, all of finance is about human beings. और अगर आम लोगों को ज़्यादा नहीं हो रहा तो पॉलिसी से होते, उन पॉलिसी से होते. दूसरी बात जो मैं करना चाहता था ये था कि ये बहुत जरूरी है कि हम जाके देखें कि जो पॉलिसीज हम बना रहे हैं उनका इम्पैक्ट क्या हो रहा है ग्राउंड पे. बहुत सी पॉलिसीज हम बना लेते हैं, हमारे ख्याल बहुत अच्छी होती है, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली दे डोंट वर्क एंड दे आर नॉट वर्किंग समटाइम्स फॉर सम वेरी बेसिक रीजंस. एक दो चीजें आपको चेंज कर लेंगे पॉलिसी जबरदस्ती करके, लेकिन अगर आप लेजी होंगे, अगर आप पॉलिसी बना लेंगे लेकिन उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पे आपने जोर नहीं दिया, आप देखेंगे नहीं कि किस तरह काम करेंगे, तो वो पॉलिसी जितनी अच्छी भी आप बना लें उसका कोई फायदा नहीं. और शुरू में मुझे अच्छा लगा कि आपने मुझे रजा वाक़िफ़ कहा, इसलिए कि रजा वाक़िफ़ साहब ने मेरे ख्याल में 3 सालों में जितना ज़्यादा उन्होंने स्टेट में पुश किया था, और सिर्फ पॉलिसीज नहीं उन्होंने दी, उन्होंने इसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में कुछ दिलचस्पी दिखाया और शायद बहुत सालों के बाद इतनी दिलचस्पी. और उसकी वजह से आप देखें कि 3 सालों में यहाँ के पीरियड छोटा था. आई थिंक उनकी अचीवमेंट्स बहुत ज़्यादा, और खासतौर पर अगर आप देखें कोविड के ज़माने इस तरह ने लीडरशिप दिखाई और स्टेट बैंक ने ऐसे ऐसे काम किए जो पहले नहीं किए थे, वो बहुत इम्प्रेसिव थे. और उसमें यही बात थी कि ना सिर्फ पॉलिसीज बनाए लेकिन उनको फॉलो भी किया, उनको देखा कैसे, उनको फिर अपग्रेड किया, अपडेट किया, रिफाइन किया ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस, ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ डिबेट. इसी तरह की हमें अब ओरिएंटेशन की जरूरत है पाकिस्तान. कल मैंने एक आर्टिकल लिखा था एक्सप्रेस ट्रिब्यून में, आज उर्दू में भी ट्रांसलेशन हो गई. मैं आई एम सॉरी आई एम प्लानिंग माय ओन आर्टिकल, बट उसमें एक बात जो मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा फिट करती है वो ये कि वो आर्टिकल मैंने महबूब हक साहब के बारे में लिखा. और महबूब हक साहब मेरे सबसे पहले बॉस लेट 1990s में. और महबूब हक साहब आप लोगों को जो मेरी जनरेशन के अंदर पता होगा उनके बारे में बहुत ज़बरदस्त इंसान है. He was a leading figure in human development, in economics. और मेरा ख्याल है वर्ल्ड स्टेज पे पाकिस्तान की नुमाइंदगी पब्लिक पॉलिसी सर्कल्स में शायद किसी ने अच्छी की. And today we miss them a lot because unfortunately जो हमारा मुल्क है वो फंस चुका है एक विशेष साइकिल जिसमें से निकलने की जरूरत है और उसमें मेरा ख्याल में इस तरह की चीजें केस स्टडीज जाके देखना कि क्या हो रहा है ग्राउंड लेवल पे बहुत जरूरी है. फॉर एग्जांपल अभी मैं देख रहा था अपने फोन पे मेरे दोस्त हैं जो बिल एंड गेट्स फाउंडेशन में काम करते हैं. उन्होंने मुझे एक आर्टिकल भेजा हुआ था जिसमें एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग फाइंडिंग थी. वो ये थी कि वो मुल्क जिनमें गरीब लोग और अमीर लोगों की दोस्ती होती है वो पॉवर्टी रिडक्शन में आगे बढ़ते हैं. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे मुल्क में मेरे ख्याल में गरीब और अमीर के दरमियान बहुत ज़्यादा फासला है. यू कैन नॉट इवन इमेजिन कि गरीब लोग कैसे जिंदगी गुजारते हैं. आप सोचें कि मिनिमम वेज 25,000 रुपये है, वो भी बड़े कम लोगों को मिलती है, इससे कम ही मिलती है. और आजकल इतनी महंगाई है हम फील करते हैं टैक्सेस ऊपर जा रहे हैं. लेकिन कभी हमने सोचा है कि वो जो हमारा मुलाजिम है जो हमारे घर में काम करता है उसके साथ क्या होता है. तो आई थिंक अनफॉर्चुनेटली we have lost some connections, we have lost stories, and we need to rekindle those stories. तो मेरा ख्याल में ये केस है जिसमें बहुत जरूरी है इंशाल्लाह रोल प्ले करें. आखिरी चीज जो मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ, देखें we are meeting at a time when Pakistan is going through difficulty. और इसके मैं भी 2-3 मिनट आपको थोड़ा सा बताना चाहता हूँ. I know everybody is running the Pakistan. चीज जो जान चढ़ गई है यूरोप में अनफॉर्चुनेटली सारे मुल्क के साथ में. एक तो खाने पीने की चीजें महंगी हो गई, दूसरा दुनिया में ब्लॉक्स बनते जा रहे हैं और हमें धकेला जा रहा है कि आप या इस ब्लॉक में चले जाए कुछ ब्लॉक में. ये भी इसके बड़े प्रोफाउंड इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है. ग्लोबल सिचुएशन मुश्किल है. ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट हमारा मसला क्यों हुआ क्योंकि हमने कुछ गलतियां की. फरवरी में हमारे फॉरेन एक्सचेंजेस जो कि बहुत एक इंपॉर्टेंट इंडिकेटर होता है आपके मुल्क की मैक्रो स्टेबिलिटी का, क्योंकि उन्हीं फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व से आपने इंपोर्ट्स की पेमेंट करनी होती है और उन्हीं फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व से आपने जो एक्सटर्नल डेट लिया होता है उसकी सर्विसिंग आप करते हैं. तो वो अगर गिरना शुरू हो जाए लेवल पे आगे तो वो घबरा जाता है. इसलिए लोग घबरा रहे हैं. वो क्यों गिरे? हमारे ज़फ़ायर थे $17 बिलियन फरवरी में. हम एक IMF प्रोग्राम के अंदर हैं. वो IMF प्रोग्राम इसलिए हमारे लिए फायदेमंद है कि जब तक हम उसके साथ साथ रहते हैं तो बाहर से पैसे आने शुरू होते हैं. जब उनके साथ नहीं होते, डिले हो जाते हैं तो बाहर से पैसे रुक जाते हैं. हमारे फ्रेंडली कंट्रीज में पैसे देते हैं, चाइना भी देता, सऊदी अरब भी देता, UAE भी देता. हमारे बैंक्स बोरो नहीं कर सकते बाहर से. और हमारे जो डेट सर्विसिंग है वो तो हमें करनी होती है. तो अगर आपके पास इनफ्लो ना आ रहे हो, आउटफ्लो जाते हैं तो आपकी सफाई नहीं होती. अनफॉर्चुनेटली फरवरी के बाद फरवरी मार्च में, लेकिन क्योंकि हमारे मुल्क में पॉलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी थी, वोट फॉर कॉन्फ्रेंस हो गया. उसके बाद IMF हमसे नाराज हो गए कि हमें कुछ ऐसी चीजें दी जो नहीं करनी चाहिए. एनर्जी सब्सिडी पैकेज जो हमारे पास पैसे नहीं थे उसके लिए वो हमने दिया. उसके बाद ये गवर्नमेंट आई, इन्होंने भी थोड़ी सी ताकीद की चीजें कर रहे हैं तो डिले होता है. और अनफॉर्चुनेटली अब हमारे सप्लाई आगे हो गए. $17 बिलियन थे फरवरी में और अभी हो गया $8.5 बिलियन. $8.5 बिलियन एक अच्छा नंबर है. इसीलिए लोग परेशान. अब अच्छी खबर क्या है? अच्छी खबर यह है कि हमने कुछ ऐसे इकदाम अब कर लिए जिससे एक बहुत बुरी सिचुएशन से हम बच जाएंगे. एक तो ये कि हमने IMF के साथ जो नेक्स्ट रिव्यू है उसका एग्रीमेंट करने के साथ है और ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट माइलस्टोन है. ये कोई छोटी चीज़ नहीं होती. और इंशाल्लाह अगले महीने इसी महीने से कि एंड पे उन्होंने अनाउंस भी किया कि बोर्ड मीटिंग भी होगी, उसमें पैसे भी डिस्कस करेंगे. उसके साथ साथ हमने अपनी मैक्रो पॉलिसीज को बेहतर कर दिया. इस गवर्नमेंट को काफी क्रेडिट जाना चाहिए कि उन्होंने एक मुश्किल बजट पास किया. इस बजट में फिस्कल पॉलिसी काफी बेहतर हुई और अच्छी बात है क्योंकि हमारी इकॉनमी ओवरहीट कर रही थी. Unfortunately, हमारी इकोनॉमी एक ऐसी इकोनॉमी बन गई है जिसमें अगर 4-5% से ज़्यादा ग्रोथ तुम्हारे इम्पोर्ट बिल में बढ़ जाता है, हम कंज्यूम बहुत ज़्यादा करते हैं, इन्वेस्ट नहीं करते, बाहर से चीज़ें मंगवाते हैं, खुद कुछ चीज़ मंगवाते हैं, इसको हम सस्टेन ही नहीं कर सकते, 4-5% ऊपर जाने के लिए इम्पोर्ट बिल बढ़ जाता है, इसको थोड़ा सा हम कंट्रोल में लेके आएंगे, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी को टाइट काफ़ी देर से की हुई है, और फिस्कल पॉलिसी को टाइट हो जाएगी, और इसके साथ साथ जो एक पॉलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी थी वो भी कुछ हद तक अब कम हो गई, क्योंकि इस गवर्नमेंट ने कह दिया कि इनका पूरा इरादा है कि वो अगले साल तक अपनी पूरा टर्म करेंगे और IMF के साथ अगले 12 महीने, तो जो एक अनसर्टेनिटी, पॉलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी थी, एक अनसर्टेनिटी IMF का प्रोग्राम था जो है वो भी रिजॉल्व हो गया, हमारी पॉलिसी को लेकर रास्ते में चलना शुरू हो गया। एक और अच्छी खबर ये है कि ये मेजर्स अब काम भी करना शुरू कर दिया है। जून में हमारा इम्पोर्ट का बिल बहुत हाई था, जब हमारा इम्पोर्ट बिल हाई होता है तो फिर हमारा एक्सचेंज रेट पे काफी ज्यादा प्रेशर होता है। अब हमने देखा जुलाई के महीने में इम्पोर्ट्स काफी कम हो गए, जून में हमारी तकरीबन $8 बिलियन की इम्पोर्ट्स थी, अब हमारी $6 बिलियन की इम्पोर्ट्स हुई है जुलाई। इससे हमारे आगे जाके इनकी पेमेंट थोड़ी लैग के साथ होगी, आगे जाके अब देखेंगे एक्सचेंज रेट में प्रेशर कम होगा। हमारे ख्याल में एक्सचेंज रेट पे जो प्रेशर अभी है वो एक्सेसिव है, हमारे एक्सचेंज रेट ओवर शूट करेंगे क्योंकि सेंटिमेंट भी खराब था और कुछ पेमेंट्स भी हो, लेकिन क्योंकि हमने एक काम ले लिया हमारे ख्याल में सेंटिमेंट बेहतर हो जाएगा और हमारा करंट काम डेफिसिट कम हो जाएगा, इनको बिल कम हो जाएगा, और इसकी वजह से ये रुपये में की कदर में ताकत आना शुरू हो जाए, उससे अब 80 वैल्यू आपको नजर आना शुरू होगा। और बिल्कुल ऐसे ही हुआ था 2019 में जब हमने IMF के साथ प्रोग्राम शुरू किया, उससे पहले कुछ महीने काफी ज्यादा हमारी करेंसी वीक हो गई, उसके बाद करेंसी स्ट्रॉन्ग होना शुरू हो गया। आखिर में मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि काफी लोगों का ख्याल है कि स्टेट बैंक जो कुछ नहीं कर रहा, वो रुपए को देने दे रहे हैं, वो बैंक जो है वो बहुत स्पेकुलेट कर रहे हैं और पूरे मॉनेटरी की, ये बिल्कुल गलत तासुर है। हम बैंक्स को बहुत स्ट्रांगली मॉनिटर करते हैं, सारे CEO से बैठे हैं, को बार बार बुलाते हैं, और उसके साथ साथ रुपए में भी जब हमें लगता है कि डिसऑर्डरली मूवमेंट है, बहुत ज्यादा तेजी से ये देख रहा है, तो हमें अपने फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स को इस्तेमाल करना पड़ता है, उसको सपोर्ट करना। हम उसको बहुत किसी लेवल पे रोकने की कोशिश नहीं करते, लेकिन जब हमें लगता है कि मार्केट में तो बहुत पैनिक आ रही है तो फिर हम आके रिसर्च यूज करते हैं। और एक रूमर देखें आजकल पहली भी है कि पता नहीं हमें IMF के साथ क्या माहदा करके रुपए को हम 275 पे लेके जाएंगे, 300 पे लेके जाएंगे, ये भी बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसी चीज है, इस तरह का कोई माहदा नहीं। IMF को पता है कि अब हमारा जो एक्सचेंज रेट है वो मार्केट इकोनॉमी है, और जो मार्केट में सप्लाई डिमांड जैसे भी जाएगी उसके बेसिस पे इसका वैल्यू पर हम देखिए। आखिर में मैं जस्ट ऑन रूमर्स फ्रंट एक अगर आपसे इंतजार करने से रिक्वेस्ट करें, देखिए आजकल बहुत ज्यादा सोशल मीडिया पे, ट्विटर पे, व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स में अजीब अजीब किस्म की टिप्स आपको नजर आएंगे, हमें भी लोग भेजते रहते हैं, अकलमंद लोग हमें भेजते हैं, पूछते हैं कि सही है, मैं उनसे पूछता हूँ आपको क्या लगता है सही, वो कहते हैं हमें लगता है सही, मैं कुछ नहीं सीखना। तो ये देखें, यू हैव टू यूज योर इंटेलिजेंस राइट नाउ, अल्लाह का शुक्र है माशाल्लाह आप लोग सारे पढ़े लिखे हो, कुछ अपना भी आप ज़हन इस्तेमाल करें इन टर्म्स ऑफ व्हाट टू बिलीव एंड व्हाट टू से। एक जो जिम्मेदार मुआशरा होता है वो क्राइसिस से जब होता है तो वो एक्सपर्ट्स की तरफ देखता है, वो ये नहीं देखता कि भाई इसने क्लिप को निकाल दी, कोई बंदा जो है वही बात करना शुरू कर दिया। आप एक्सपर्ट से पास जाए, आपका सवाल है आप जरूर आए स्टेट बैंक के पास, हम जवाब दें, हम अकाउंटेबल है, लेकिन प्लीज इस सिचुएशन से हम तभी निकलेंगे जब हम थोड़े से यूनिफाई होंगे आपस में और थोड़ा सा एक्सपर्ट्स को ट्रस्ट करने का रिवाज वापस आएगा। तो सॉरी कुछ मैं इधर उधर भी चला गया बातों में, लेकिन मैं रियली वांट टू थैंक in particular Vyasa. I think this is a very good step, the case studies approach, and I think storytelling is the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request Vyasa to come on stage and present the case studies booklet and also when I was of thanks to the We are displaying the QR code, so if anyone wants to access it, they can scan it and go to the browser. So please take it. I would request the honorable request to present souvenirs to our esteemed guests from our partner institutions. Mr. Muhammad Ali Gulfraz, MD, Bank of America. Mr. Azad Hussain Saqib, Head Commercial Banking, SME and Ethics Section. As mentioned by Governor Saab, last but not least, Mr. Amir Aziz, Head Development Finance and Reform. We appreciate the efforts of our team who worked in this study project. Zahid Chabir from Mumbai. Mr. Javed Iqbal from Mumbai. Thank you, sir. I would request Syed Sajid Ali, Director Manual Development Department, to offer a vote of thanks.
Sorry for the request. Good afternoon. We started this event with the expression of words from the Quran that wants us to think, to reflect, ponder. Indeed, this is one of the greatest virtues of human being, and thinking starts with a question. And we try our best to see concepts. Our journey into case study started when we tried to seek answers to one simple question. That is, why the one bank is performing so well in extending loans under women into the financial scheme. This was the question, and we tried to approach. We approach borrowers, we approach promoters, trade officers, their supervisors. Our team made their best efforts to understand how each one of them perceived risk in financial transactions and how they reacted when events actually rolled out before them. The journey was amazing and very learning, and this is the benefit of thinking. The value of exploring answers to your question, and this is how one creates knowledge. You all will agree that questions requiring deeper understanding are unending, and so is the scope of further case studies, particularly in different areas of financial history. I would like you to leave this event with one simple question: how you can be part of knowledge creation journey that brought us to Bhapa. In the end, let me express my gratitude to Honorable Acting Governor for taking our time to extend this event, to attend this event. This reflects the priority you accorded to knowledge creation and dissemination. I'm sure you're fighting multiple fronts, and after that, taking our time for this event is really hard work. I would sincerely appreciate the effort, support from partners like Bank of Heather, HPL, and Castle Bank for sharing information and interesting involved with this responsibility. I'm hopeful that Nepal has lived up to your expectations. Our respected guests who are attending this event either physically or virtually also deserve a decision. I'm sure your participation will raise a wave of future collaboration on many such projects in areas of expertise, in areas of their expertise. And finally, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of developing working on this project, Zahid and Javed. Your hard work and efforts were really remarkable. This case studies would have possible without their dedication and passion. They work really work with their passions. And event like this does not happen overnight, and we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very proactive and dedicated staff of our institutions, especially at the BAF and our project and FLBY team. They also supported this in this event. This extraordinary support from officers, staff, and personnel for organization of this ceremony deserves special thanks. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.